A life-threatening moment that could take away everything.
All-star forward Chris Bosh is in a Miami hospital.
Kind of have a surreal kind of moment. People pass away all the time from blood clots.
Blood clots to the lungs are a very, very rare condition.
But from that darkness comes restoration.
It definitely gives you an outlook and an appreciation. I feel like I've been given a second chance.
Wait. Let's start from the beginning. Born and raised in Dallas, Texas, Chris Bosh was destined to play in the NBA, or at least that's what everybody expects you to do when you're 6'10" at just 17 years old. Bosh was nationally known to scouts from the jump. This was due to him leading his high school team to a perfect 40-0 record and having the team be ranked #1 in the entire country. This is where Bosh averaged 19 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 blocks a game as he was awarded Texas Mr. Basketball, which is an honor for the top basketball player in all of Texas. Bosh knew he wanted to attend college, which was a surprise to many due to the fact that great high school players like himself were able to get drafted straight from high school. Think of Kobe, Kevin Garnett, Tracy McGrady at the time. Knowing this, college teams were more eager than ever to sign the stud big man. The universities of Florida, Miami, and Michigan were all very interested in Bosh, but he opted for Georgia Tech and coach Paul Hewitt, who believed very strongly in Bosh's aspirations to play professionally. Bosh's college career was short-lived as many expected. Only being there for a year, Bosh was able to put up 15.5 points per game, 9 rebounds a game, and just over 2 blocks a game. These stats would earn the freshman big man second team All-ACC, as well as being awarded the ACC Rookie of the Year. Surprisingly enough, Chris Bosh actually planned on finishing his degree in graphic design and computer imaging. However, his mother sat him down and told him to write down the pros and cons of leaving school early for the NBA versus staying in school. After careful consideration, Bosh knew his dream was literally right in front of him and decided to declare for the 2003 NBA draft. His draft assessment was as follows. He had nice shooting touch for his size. He had good footwork down low. He works hard for his positioning. He will have to bulk up to compete with NBA level big men. His quickness off the floor makes up for the lack of strength. He runs the floor extremely well, has very quick hands. He's a set shooting big man. The question is, will he gain the weight to be able to produce inside? In what was widely regarded as one of the strongest draft classes in NBA history, that included the likes of LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh was selected with the 4th overall pick by the Toronto Raptors. Finally, Chris's dream was a reality. He was finally a NBA player. Chris Bosh's Raptor career obviously came with its ups and downs, and even started the moment he was drafted. Not many people know this, but before Bosh even signed with the Raptors, other teams made trade offers for Chris because they knew that Toronto needed a veteran scorer, and even Vince Carter himself pressed for a trade. But all offers were turned down because general manager at the time, Glenn Grunwald, believed that Chris Bosh was the real deal. Playing behind Vince Carter and Jalen Rose his first year in Toronto, it was hard for Bosh to get many touches on the offensive side, ending the season averaging 11.5 points a game. To Bosh's credit, however, he was assigned to play the center position, a position where he had to match up with the likes of Shaq, Yao Ming, and Zydrunas Ilgauskas night in and night out. Bosh was selected to the NBA's all-rookie first team, but was frustrated with the team's overall record, which was 33-49. The very next season, Toronto's cover boy Vince Carter was traded to the Nets. This in turn would officially anoint Bosh as the new leader and face of the franchise whom the Raptors would look to build around.
Want to be a great player, I have to step up one day and you know, take on the responsibility. So
it showed as Bosh was able to be more active in the offense as his numbers increased significantly from the season prior. The remainder of Bosh's career in Toronto was great for him, but not really for the team. Bosh's numbers increased almost every year, with him having his best year in his last year. He made the All-Star game his last 5 years on the Raptors and led them to 2 playoff appearances. Unfortunately, however, losing both in the first round. Frustration grew from Bosh and from the entire organization. After trying to overhaul the roster many times with various trades and even a first overall pick, Bosh had this to say. It was just that consistency of just kind of underachieving a little bit and really, quite frankly, not having any help. Free agents didn't want to come, therefore we could only get so much better. Nothing unfortunately was working for the Raptors and Bosh. Bosh was a really good player. He was just tasked to lead a not so good team, which was the ultimate reason he declared himself a free agent during the 2010 offseason. The 2010 free agency was really nothing like the NBA has ever seen before. So many stars were available to sign wherever they so choose. No, seriously, look how many players were up for new contracts contracts that summer. With 3 of the top 5 picks from the 2003 draft available, teams were looking to sign at least one of them. Now, in order for Bosh to receive as much money as possible, he would have to sign with the team via a sign and trade deal. Knowing this, Bosh made it clear that he wanted to play with LeBron James, whether that be in Chicago with the Bulls, New York with the Knicks, or in New Jersey with the Nets. Although he wasn't totally crossing out the possibility of teaming up with Dwyane Wade somewhere else without LeBron James. It was simple. Bosh wanted to win and pretty much would go anywhere not called Toronto. A lot of teams already had their youth and star players in mind, so to take on 2 to 3 stars at once was a lot to ask of a team to do. So that explains why Bosh, James, and Wade agreed on teaming up and building their own dream team down in Miami. In what was said to be one of the first player-created super teams ever, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and Dwyane Wade created the Big Three.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
You heard the man. More than 7 championships were on the way for the Heat. The first season together, the Heat got off to a 9-8 start and frustration was already high in Miami. In fact, LeBron wanted Pat Riley to fire Eric Spoelstra and wanted Riley to coach the team. A bold ask to have just 17 games into the season. However, Bosh and the Heat seemed to be meshing better, going 21-1 over their next 22 games. Now, it was no surprise that James and Wade had a better connection and relationship with each other than either one did with Bosh. Now, this did cause some commotion on the offensive end, specifically in the half-court setting. They were big driving finishers at the time. This, in turn, would push Bosh to the mid-range or beyond the arc for the occasional three-pointer. Bosh was now the third option in a time where just last season, he was leading an entire team with 24-11. Bosh ended the season with an obvious decrease in his stats, averaging 18.7 points per game and 8.3 rebounds a game. But he was so much better than these numbers implied. The level of grit, energy, and drive that Bosh brought to the offense and especially the defensive end was special. In their first season as the Big Three, Miami was facing the Mavericks in the finals. With Bosh shooting below 30% in the first 2 games, he scored the game-winning shot in Game 3 to give Miami a 2-1 lead. Unfortunately for Bosh and crew, that would be the last win for the Heat, as the Mavericks would win 3 straight to historically knock off the three-headed monster. Bosh was seen sobbing following the loss, which would be a pivotal moment in his career. Bosh admitted that the Mavericks just wanted it more than the Heat did. They had better chemistry and admitted that he and the Heat were just downright outplayed in that series. During the 2011-2012 season, Bosh and the Heat were out for vengeance, and Bosh now gained valuable playoff and finals experience that he really never got in Toronto. This season, the Heat really wanted to embrace the small ball strategy, as they would play Bosh at the center position instead of power forward. Now, this really wasn't anything new to Bosh, so he knew exactly what to do. The Heat would finish this shortened season as the second seed, going 46-20. The Heat's Eastern Conference playoff run looked like this, with the Boston Celtics taking them to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. But they prevailed in Game 7 as Bosh contributed 19 points while going 3 from 4 from deep, as the Heat saw themselves once again in the finals, this time against a very young and up-and-coming OKC Thunder team. The Thunder won the first game and the Heat were getting flashbacks to last year again. Was this all for nothing? Why isn't this team working? What are we doing wrong? But the Heat put their foot down, sweeping the rest of the series, with Bosh scoring 24 points in the deciding Game 5. There it is. After all the years of losing in Toronto, the blood, sweat, and tears dating all the way back to his high school days, the countless hours getting better, and numerous haters and doubters in his life, Chris Bosh finally achieved his dream and was now an NBA champion. Since it worked out so good last season, the Heat decided to keep Bosh at center for the next season. This would prove to be very beneficial to Bosh, as he was named an all-star starter this season. The Heat achieved the NBA's best record, recording 66 wins and only 16 losses. Although Bosh's stats from the year prior may have decreased, his value to this Miami Heat team increased, especially during last year's playoff run. This playoff run, Miami ran through the Bucks and Bulls before getting taken to 7 games against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, in which they would eventually prevail in Game 7. Bosh and the Heat would have a legendary matchup against 4 future Hall of Famers on the San Antonio Spurs in the finals. In one of the best finals matchups in recent history, the teams would split the first 2 games before the Spurs blew out the Heat to go ahead 2-1. In Game 4, Bosh would score 20 points and grab 13 rebounds as he, Wade, and LeBron combined for 85 points in a Miami Heat win to tie the series at 2 apiece. The series would then go back to the Spurs, forcing the Heat to win the final 2 games at home. You've made it this far, and here it is. Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals would be the biggest game of Chris Bosh's entire basketball career. With 20 seconds left and the Heat down by 3, the impossible happens.
James catches, puts up a 3, won't go, rebound Bosh, back out to Allen, his three-pointer, bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
Chris Bosh pulled down what could have been one of the biggest offensive rebounds in NBA history. The game would then go into overtime. With the Heat up by 3 now, Bosh did it again.
Green trying to get free, cross-court pass to Green, blocked by Bosh! Game over!
These plays in Game 6 by Bosh saved legacies, saved the Heat from elimination, saved the Big 3 from potentially parting ways. Bosh showed everyone exactly why he came to Miami in the first place, to be valuable to his team in any way he could be. Although Bosh was held scoreless in Game 7, the Heat would go on to win the game and claim their 2nd straight NBA championship, which realistically would have never happened without Bosh's heroics of Game 6. The following season, the Heat essentially did the same thing as the last few seasons, as they would have one of the best records in the NBA while waltzing their way into another playoff appearance. Chris Bosh did see his lowest minutes in his career, getting 32 minutes a game. This season, he would average around 16 points a game and 6.5 rebounds a game. Although another down year in stats, Chris was able to still develop his game by stepping behind the arc and hitting a career-high 74 threes on 33% shooting. The Heat would once again steamroll their opponents on their way to the 4th consecutive NBA Finals appearance. It was a repeat of last year's finals as the Miami Heat faced off against the San Antonio Spurs. But this time, the Spurs had a bad taste in their mouths from the year prior and won the series decisively 4-1. The Heat locker room knew that Game 5 was potentially the last time this team and the Big 3 would be together, and they were right. Well, that was quick. And just like that, all the Big 3 were free agents once again, this time in 2014. With LeBron off to Cleveland and Dwyane Wade staying in Miami, Chris Bosh had a major decision to make. There was wide speculation that Bosh would join the Houston Rockets to create essentially another Big 3 with the likes of James Harden and Dwight Howard. However, this contract would have been less than his Miami contract. Having already won championships, Bosh did what was best for his family and took Miami's offer of 5 years and $118 million to stay with the Heat and Dwyane Wade. Chris Bosh was amazing as a third option on a really great team. With his contract, however, the spotlight was now back on Bosh to perform as essentially the #1 option and the leader of a team once again. During the 2014-15 season, Bosh produced his highest offensive production since joining the Heat. However, after playing in the 2015 All-Star Game in New York, Chris Bosh was admitted to a Miami hospital for lung tests. Unfortunately, the doctors came back and told Bosh that there was a blood clot in one of his lungs. On February 21st, 2015, Chris Bosh was ruled out for the remainder of the NBA season. Hearing this was tragic news not only to the Miami Heat and fans, but also Chris Bosh's career. Bosh knew he wanted to get back to playing basketball again and did everything he could during the offseason to make sure he was able to step on the hardwood again. Sure enough, just 8 months later, on October 28th, 2015, Bosh made his return to the court for Miami's season opener, dropping 21 points and 10 rebounds as Bosh looked like he never missed a step. Bosh was back and was voted back to the All-Star game and was even selected to compete in the 3-point contest that year. But due to a calf injury, Chris could not compete in either one of them. Even worse news broke. A blood clot was found in Chris's leg that forced him to now miss time following the All-Star break. Bosh was in a pickle. He knew deep down that he wanted to keep playing basketball and didn't want to let his team down by sitting out. He also faced immense pressure from the Heat organization and physicians telling him that he needs to sit out the remainder of the season because of the dangers of this reoccurring medical condition. With lots of thought about his career and health, Bosh agreed, that it was best for him to not play again that season. Working tirelessly during the offseason, Bosh was determined and optimistic to make a return to the court for the 2016-2017 season. Even the Heat organization became more and more hopeful that Bosh would be cleared for camp. However, these hopes would quickly dwindle due to Bosh's continued issues with blood clots. In September 2016, Chris would fail a physical and was not cleared to participate in training camp with his team. After this happened, Heat president Pat Riley said that Bosh's time with the team is probably over. A year goes by, and in June of 2017, the NBA ruled that Chris Bosh's blood clots were a career-ending illness and Chris should not play basketball anymore. 2 days later, the Heat would waive Chris Bosh, ending a memorable 7-year stint with the Miami Heat organization. Following Bosh's release, Pat Riley said that the number 1 will never be worn by another player, and we can't wait to hang his jersey in the rafters. In 2018, Bosh said that he was on the comeback trail and refused to rule out a return to the NBA. Although this was very short-lived, as a year went by and Bosh announced that he was no longer pursuing his NBA career. Texas Mr. Basketball. 2002 high school state and national champion, ACC Rookie of the Year, 4th overall pick, 13 NBA seasons, 11 All-Star Game selections. 2008 Olympic gold medal, career averages of 19 points per game, 8.5 rebounds a game, 2 assists per game, and 1 block a game, and 2-time NBA champion. These are Chris Bosh's accolades and achievements. Throughout his 4 years in high school, 1 year in college, and 13 years in the NBA, Chris Bosh was able to achieve all of these different achievements and accolades. But looking back on it, Chris Bosh was really overlooked and overshadowed almost his entire career. Chris Bosh played when the power forward position was thriving. All-time greats played when he did, such as Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. But this never stopped him from being great. He was able to become the number 1 option for the team that drafted him in just his 2nd year there. Although the team never really achieved much, Bosh made an entire fan base love him. Now, when he joined the Big Three in Miami, most people will say that it was really more like a big 2+1. James and Wade were the so-called superstars, and Bosh was their 3rd option. But looking back on it, it wasn't really like that at all. Bosh was never praised for his late game heroics, buzzer beaters, leadership. It was always given to James and Wade. However, Bosh never looked for praise or acknowledgement from anyone. He knew who he was. He knew that he'd become an NBA player. He knew he'd be an all-star. He knew that he'd be an NBA champion. And most of all, Chris Bosh knew exactly how good he was.